Hi, my name is Chee-Wee and I'm a physiotherapist and I'm also a lecturer at a university in the United Kingdom. I'm making these videos to help musicians and people who are training to be musicians to become injury-free and to be able to prolong their lives as musicians for much longer and enjoy what they do. I'm going to talk about warming up and stretching. So warming up and stretching are two very important things that musicians probably should be doing more before they actually either practice or before they perform, in order to help them prolong their lives as musicians and to make sure that they don't get into injury. A lot of the times, a lot of people underestimate the simple things of doing warm-ups and stretching because on its own, it doesn't seem like they're of any use whatsoever. But in order to have an effect, you need to do it almost every day. Now, I must admit that when I'm running short of time, or when I'm busy, or when I'm just too lazy to do so, that I actually avoid warm-ups and stretching myself before I practice or before I go perform. But obviously, I need to set a good example, and also it's a case of do as I say, but don't do as I do. Well, hopefully, that after this video, all of us will strive to perform warm-ups and stretching much more often, so that we will hopefully not get into all sorts of injuries much more frequently. And I actually do encourage my children to do that as well, so that they do enjoy their playing and their practicing much more. If you like my videos and you would like me to make more videos to help you to be able to perform much better as a musician, then please do click the subscribe button so that I know that you like this video and that I will make more of it. If you have any questions, please do comment below, or if you have any suggestions as to some of the content or topics that you would like me to make videos, please do leave a comment below as well, and I do read them, and I may not be able to respond as often, but I'll try my very best. So now let's get on to the video about warm-ups and stretches. Now, as you will realize that I've actually very deliberately separate these two terms up, warm-up and stretching. A lot of people use it interchangeably in terms of warm-up and stretching, thinking that they are both the same thing. But it is important to understand that warm-ups and stretching serve two very different functions. One should always do a warm-up first before one does a stretching. So what's the difference between the two? Well, the warm-up is to warm up our bodies, as the name suggests, in order to raise the temperature of the body by roughly about 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. The reason for that is that by raising the temperature of the body, we're preparing the body to engage in some activity that we want to do. So for musicians, especially for musicians who utilize their upper body to play their instruments, you need to raise the temperature of the muscles within our upper limbs and the upper body in order to help us play much much-better. There are several parts of our body that actually benefit from this warm-up. One are the muscles. If we warm up the muscles will work much more efficiently and more effectively. And second, the nerves. The nerves actually require a much warmer temperature in order to conduct the signals that's coming from our brains to tell our muscles how to move. And three, the tendons. Now the tendons connect between the bones and the muscles. They are actually extension of the muscles itself. Now if we actually increase the temperature of the tendons themselves, what will happen is that they are much more pliable, much more flexible, and the chances of us getting an injury from misusing our muscles and our tendons actually decreases. So it's actually quite helpful to do a warm-up. So how do we then do a warm-up? It's quite simple. For musicians who do not have time, you don't need to do something that's actually very strenuous. all you have to do is do a simple jogging on the spot for roughly about between 1 to 2 minutes with upper limb movements. Now what I'm going to do now is to show you a very simple warm-up, short and simple warm-up that you can do anywhere, that does not require a lot of space but will effectively raise your body temperature to about 1 to 2 degrees. So firstly, stand in a space that is free of any obstacles around you. Next, just simply lift your heels off the ground, alternatively as if you're running on the spot. And whilst you're doing that, the very next thing you want to do is do a punching motion, but gentle punching motion that does that. Okay, so how long should you be doing this? Well, you should be doing this for about between 1 to 2 minutes. So as you can see, this isn't very strenuous, but it will be active enough to raise the body temperature by having a bit more blood pumped up to the upper part of your body, which will raise the temperature of your muscles and your nerves and also make your joints much more flexible as well. Now during this, it shouldn't be out of breath. If you get out of breath, just simply relax and reduce the intensity by slowing a bit further down like that. But if you can, go for it. But you should still be able to speak to someone without being breathless. And after 1 to 2 minutes rest, you should feel that you have a slight flush, but also that your upper body is being warmed up. And that's a simple warm-up for your upper body. All right, after talking a bit about warm-up and how it's useful to do a warm-up before stretching, let's go on to the stretching now. Now for most musicians, the part of the body that you use to control and play the instruments are the upper body and their upper limbs. So therefore, a lot of stretch for this particular video will concentrate on the upper body, the neck, and the upper limb as well. We'll now go on to the first stretch that we're going to do, and that's the stretch for the neck. There are several types of neck stretches, but we'll just concentrate on one type if you are short of time. So it's quite a simple one where we simply stretch the muscles that connect from our neck region to the shoulder regions around here. This particular muscle is called the trapezius. So what we do is, in order to stretch the muscle on the left side, we bring our right ear towards the right shoulder like this. Make sure that your posture, the back is straight. And after you've done that, take your right hand and hold on to your head and gently push it down very gently. Now what you should not be feeling is pain, but what you should be feeling is a tight stretch along here where the trapezius, this muscle, is. And hold it there for roughly about 10 seconds and then relax and go back to the middle again. 10 seconds of stretch is enough to be able to stretch the muscle and prepare it for your practice. And how many times should we be doing it? 2 times should be sufficient. So 2 sets of 10 seconds. In fact, for every stretch that we're going to do afterwards, that I'm going to show you in the video, just simply do 2 sets of 10 seconds will be beneficial enough. And because we're only doing a few, that will take a maximum of about 10 minutes inclusive of the warm-up. And that's a very short period of time to invest in order for you to be injury-free when you practice. So we've done the neck stretch. Now, once you stretch the left side of your neck, remember to do it for your right side as well. Do exactly the same thing. Bring your left ear towards your left shoulder and use your left hand to push down your head and hold it there for 10 seconds. And you should be feeling a tight stretch along here, and it shouldn't be painful. And after 10 seconds, relax and bring it back to the middle again. So that's the next stretch. The next stretch that we're going to do deals with some muscles of the upper limb as well as your flank, which is the side of your body. So specifically, we're targeting the triceps right over here, which helps us to straighten your elbow as well as bring your shoulders backwards, but also the latissimus dorsi right over here, okay, which in layman's terms is what you see in bodybuilders, what we call the wings of the body. So in order to stretch that, it's quite a simple stretch. All you have to do is, if you're stretching your right side, bring your right hand behind your back like this, and then use your left hand, hold on to your elbow and push downwards. What you should be feeling is a tight stretch right over here. Now, if you don't feel a stretch, you can go a bit further and make this a much harder stretch by leaning towards the left side. And you should be feeling a stretch that goes all the way down here. So hold it there for 10 seconds and then come back again, relax, and then do it again. Repeat this on your left side. Bring your left hand behind your back. Use your right hand to hold on to your left elbow and then simply lean to the right like this. And you should be feeling a stretch right across here. And hold it for 10 seconds and bring it back. And that's you done for the triceps and your latissimus dorsi. All right, for this next stretch, which is the stretch for your front of your chest, which is called the pectoralis muscles, what we need to do is you need to go to a corner of the room or next to a door frame, like here. Okay, so what we're using is this particular corner over here to help us do the stretch. So firstly, in order to do the stretch, you need to raise your arms like this so that your elbows are placed around where horizontally across your front. Next, turn towards the door and place your elbows against the two corners right here. And then step back one step and then lean in. So I'm going to demonstrate to you how to do the stretch right now. So bring your elbows across like that and step back one step and simply lean in. And what you feel a stretch, and now you feel a stretch that is stretched across the front of your chest. Hold it there for about 10 seconds and then step back and relax. So repeat that again for another 10 seconds. The next stretch that we're going to do will be fairly important, and it will be stretching two sets of muscles that we'll be using fairly often as musicians, which is why we need to concentrate a bit more on them. And these sets of muscles are called the wrist flexors and extensors. Now the flexors exist on this side, palm side of your forearm, right over here. So the forearm is the area between your elbow and your wrist, right over there. So your wrist flexors are located here, and they help to control your wrist to flex and also to grip using your fingers as well. The wrist extensors do the exact opposite and are located on the back of your forearm right over here. And what they do is the wrist extensors help to extend your wrist like this and also to straighten your fingers. Now it's important to stretch both sets of muscles and not just focus on the flexors. You would think, well, I bend my fingers most of the time, so that must be the one that I'll be concentrating on. Well, it's true. However, both sets of muscles have got different functions. Your flexors, your wrist flexors will be in charge of controlling the keys or the keyboard or pressing down on the strings, but we also need the extensors to help to stabilize the wrist so that the movements within the wrist isn't haphazard or it moves around too much. Because if it's not stabilized, what will happen is that these muscles will work much harder and therefore not be able to control your fingers on the instrument appropriately. Which is why a lot of times when we are playing, we always ensure that our elbow and wrist are placed usually in a much more neutral position like that or like that, and not placed in extreme positions like that or like that, because that emphasizes certain muscles over the other and overworks them, and therefore your likelihood of getting an injury increases. Which is why it's always good to actually observe your own posture and making sure that your wrists are placed in a neutral like this or a slightly straighter position like that, but not in extreme positions like that or like that. And you realize that a lot of children or younger people when they're actually, or novices, when they practice, they tend to adopt that position because they naturally do that in order to get a better grip, in order to be able to perhaps press down on the string or press on the keyboard much more better than to produce a sound. But in the longer term, it actually causes more issues in terms of injuries. So how would you stretch your extensors and your flexors? It's very easy. The wrist extensors and flexors are actually quite easy to stretch. So I'm going to show them to you. Stretch your flexors and your extensors of the wrists. We need to do this using a wall as to help us stretch. Let's stretch the wrist flexors first. So very first thing to do is to place your wrist in this position, both wrists, so that's to save some time, and press down against the wall like that. Okay, now if it's fairly tight, what you can do is simply lower your hands down and that will decrease the stretch. Ensure that you leave your thumb straight out so that you're stretching the tendons that controls flexion of your thumb as well. Okay, so what you do is try to put all of your palms against the wall. If you can't, simply step back and just use your body weight to lean in and hold it there for 10 seconds. Once you finish the 10 seconds, relax and rest for a while before you repeat it again. If you feel that this is too easy, you can increase the difficulty of this stretch by simply moving your palms up, because that will actually cause your wrist to be a much more extended position, like this. And hold it there for 10 seconds and then relax. So that's the stretch for your wrist flexors. You realize that when we are stretching the wrist flexors, we're actually placing our wrist in an extended position because it's the opposite direction, so as to stretch these muscles over here. Now, in order to do the wrist extensors, we need to place our wrist in a flex position. And it's an interesting one because you also want to stretch the tendon that controls the thumb as well. So what we do is, in order to do the stretch for the wrist extensors, firstly, we put our palms forwards like that. Then we put our thumb inside our palm and hold it with the other 4 fingers. Next, do that with your wrists. Using your other hand, hold it and pull it towards yourself, and you'll feel a tight stretch over here, which are your wrist extensors, and hold it there for about 10 seconds. Once you finish the 10 seconds, relax, and then do it exactly the same for the other side and hold it for 10 seconds as well. And repeat again once you finish this in 10 seconds time, and do it on the other side. And do 2 sets of 10 seconds for both sides. So for this next stretch, what we're going to do is to stretch the back of our necks and the back of our backs. And this stretch is really important for musicians because a lot of times a very common posture that musicians adopt when they're playing is this, a slouch position or a sort of hunchback position like that. It might look extreme when I actually show it to you, but you realize that when you're actually playing, you will unconsciously adopt this particular position when you're playing your instruments, especially when you're playing for a fairly long time. Now, to help counteract that, a stretch that effectively helps you to prevent shortening of the muscles here through doing too much slouching is to do an extension exercise of your back and your neck. It's a very simple one. What I've done is I've actually positioned myself on a chair that is very, very similar to a chair that we usually use either when we're playing in an orchestra or a band or an ensemble. So what you do is you shift your buttocks forwards so that you're actually sitting on the edge of the chair. Make sure that the chair is stable and that you don't actually tilt it so that you don't injure yourself by rolling over. Next, use your hands and hold on to the back of the chair. What you then do is to simply look up and also arch your back backwards and let the body weight actually do the stretch for you rather than you actively doing it yourself. So this is how you do it. and hold it there for 10 seconds and then relax. And do it again, so 2 sets of 10 seconds. And relax. So this particular stretch is for the back of your neck and the back of your back. So I've just shown you how to do a simple warm-up and also some important stretches that involves your upper body. This should be sufficient for most musicians. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video and that you found this video useful. If you like this video, please do remember to click the subscribe button so that I will do more videos for you in the future. But also, if you'd like me to do any types of videos for a certain topic, or perhaps ask me a question that I can perhaps do a video for, do remember to leave a comment below. So this is Chee-Wee, and thank you for watching, and I shall see you at my next video. Bye.